Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode where we look behind the scenes of a game show. We've got a guest with us today. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what show you were on?
Yep. So my name is Michael. I'm 28 and I live near Manchester. And I was on The Code and The Chase, and I've also been in the audience for Epic Game Show Price is Right.
Thank you very much. So we're speaking about The Code today.
Yes.
So I wasn't too aware of The Code before. I'd recognised the name, but I hadn't really watched it. And when I did some research, I realised there was only 50 episodes filmed. So
yes, there was.
over two series
of 25.
Yeah, it was cancelled after a year, which I thought was a bit harsh because I watched a couple of episodes today and it didn't seem like a bad game show at all, really. So I was a bit surprised by that.
It was a good fun format, and it's one of those people talk about occasionally getting brought back eventually because I mean it was daytime fare. You couldn't put it on prime time, I don't think, because the prices were a bit too low. But it was a lot of fun to both watch and be a part of.
Why did you apply for The Code in particular? Were you a fan of it before you went on, or?
Well, there's a weird story because mine's a very atypical story in terms of getting cast, because I do a podcast about reality TV from around the world, and we were looking to kind of expand in 2016, I think it was. So we originally started just doing a show called The Amazing Race, which is on all over the world, not over here. And we were looking into doing shows like Hunted. So we had a friend of the podcast called Anthony who is a big fan of Hunted, and we brought him on to do the second series of Hunted at the end of 2016. He'd been on 15 to 1 in 2015. And because I'm me and I'm a bit of a horrible person, he got a picture question on 15 to 1 saying, here's a picture of this trophy, what is it? He didn't know it was a Grammy off the top of his head. Obviously he does know what a Grammy is. I mocked him for it, and he basically called my bluff and said, next show I do then we'll do together, because he'd been in the green room for series 1 of The Code and didn't get on as a solo player. So they'd rung him back for series 2 and said, we don't really want solo players this year. If we can help it, do you have anyone you want to come on with? So he called my bluff and basically said, do you want to do this show with me? We'd never met up until that point. So we had to do the application form as normal, and then I had to do an audition on my own in Media City in like December 2016. I had to go there on my own. They were basically just checking that I wasn't kind of a Neanderthal. And then we got the call. Then 15th of January we filmed that. It aired on the 4th of April.
So you filmed that on 15th of January. When did you say? Sorry, I didn't quite say.
15th of January 2017 we filmed it, and then 4th of April 2017 it aired.
That's quite.
So it's quite a short turnaround.
Yeah, that's fine. Wow.
My Chase episode was 11 months.
Yeah, that's what I'd expect, something more. That's quite a long time, to be honest.
I do know of people who've had like 15 months between filming and airing for The Chase.
Yeah, wow. So The Code was quite an interesting show in that it allowed solo players, as you said, or duos or trios. Yes. Did that change the application process at all? But did you have to audition individually, or could you audition as a team?
No. So normally I think you audition as a team. You apply as 1, 2, or 3, and then if you've got 2 or 3, they audition you together. They might then turn around and say, we only want 2 of you, or we only want 1 of you. Would you mind being a solo player? But I think from me, basically in the 2 series, it was normal application, and then they just decide whether they want all of you or none of you or 1 of you.
So what was the audition like? Was it just like a dry run of the show, or asking?
Yeah, so the auditions do tend to be dry runs of the show.
Yeah.
Right. It's just general knowledge quizzes. The Code one was quite basic because I was in a weird situation, but they do tend to do sort of a run through of the show. Cool. In the auditions, at least. The Chase definitely did.
Yeah, makes sense. So how long between your application and your filming day? Have you already mentioned this?
Oh, so we applied September, October 2016. And then I did my audition, and had already got through, and they'd already said he was going to the show, basically. Yeah. Then I did my audition in the December. We filmed in the January, and then it aired in the April.
So it's about a month between your audition and the filming. It's all very quick turnaround for everything.
It was a very quick turnaround. I was sort of an afterthought, I think, in terms of that. I don't know when they actually did the applications or the auditions for the rest of the series.
Yeah. So how did they tell you that you were on? Did you get like a letter through the post or?
It's usually phone call or email. Saying,
right.
Yeah, we want to put you forward. Are you free on this date? Because in the applications, they usually ask if there's any dates you're not free.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So getting closer towards the day in our heads of film day, did they provide any travel or accommodation or anything like that? Or
so they did if you weren't local, because I live near Manchester. It was Media City, so I could just drive from home.
Yeah.
So, and because he lives in Derby way, he got the train up. He got nights in Holiday Inn or whatever, and then evening meal as well.
Oh,
and then we filmed fairly early on this Sunday, so they give us breakfast and stuff.
Oh, that's good. So what time did they start filming on the day then? You said started quite early.
Yeah, it was about 8 o'clock we started filming.
And did everybody get there at 8?
Yeah, so they brought people for each show, because obviously it's one of those shows where you don't know how many people you're going to need.
Yeah.
And there was 3 people who were carried over as a team, so they got to stay the night because they weren't local.
Oh.
Then there's probably 5-6 teams in the green room. I think some of them then carried over to the next show because they were still available.
Yeah,
you can stay the entire day if you really want to, but there's no guarantee you're gonna be brought onto the show at all.
So
until they turn around basically and say, right, you're next.
So it's all quite just all of a sudden they'll just pick a team and say, you guys.
Yeah, so they had an order, and I mean, I went into it pretty confident that we were going to be brought onto the show purely because we had such a unique story. We'd not met up until that point. We were solely internet friends, basically, and it was an interesting dynamic for them to then play off, because they were originally talking about us not actually meeting in the green room and literally just meeting when we walked onto the set.
That'd have been cool. Yeah,
it would have been very interesting, but they decided against that last second.
So once you got there on the day, we just had to do like forms and fill in paperwork, things like that. And what time did it actually begin filming? So if you got there at 8, how much admin was there?
So there wasn't much admin, because it was essentially just here's the rules of the show, and then watching the show as it was being filmed, because they didn't need to do the admin with the team who were carried over. They could just go straight to the studio. So they were filming as we were doing the admin. So it was a reasonably quick turnaround for like the admin and stuff.
Yeah. Did you get
It's probably only about half an hour after we got there that we were actually on set. It was a very quick turnaround.
Absolutely everything with this show seems just speed.
It was rapid.
I think the Wheel of Fortune, I was speaking to Dave the other day, I think he had about 2 hours of admin before they were maybe even longer actually.
Epic Game Show Price is Right was 2 episodes in 9 hours of filming.
Wow, that's slow. Wow.
Yeah, that was a very slow filming.
So how many episodes did they do of the code then during the day? You said there's 5 or 6 teams there, did you say?
3. It was 3 episodes, I think, they were filming that Sunday.
3 episodes. And how long was that?
Which is about typical.
Yeah. So how long was that start and finish the day then?
Including like the downtime of Matt and Leslie having a break and stuff, it's probably 9 hours for the 3 episodes, I guess.
9 hours.
Probably about 8 till 5.
I found the code interesting. I watched one episode and one guy, he got asked one question and then the game ended, and then he came back the next day with a change of clothes. So some of you will have been kept the same day and just have a change of clothes, but then some people
you had to bring 3-4 changes of clothes.
3-4 changes, but then some people did literally get one question and then have to come back. Wow. I just assumed all of it would be. I was wondering this. I thought they'd have a set number of people for one day and not have that follow over to the day after. I'm quite surprised that they'd actually keep some people.
It's hard to judge, because obviously if you get a team like me and Anne, we answered 8 questions, I think it was, or 8 sets of questions. So we were 40 minutes of a 45-minute episode. Whereas if you get, like, the team before us only answered 1 in that episode, the team after us only answered 1, you can, in theory, win it with 3 questions or win it with 10, as happened in different episodes of our series, actually. So it's hard to judge how many people they actually need.
It's an interesting way of doing the show. That other shows usually have a quite rigid format, so they know how long things are going to be. But with the code, it's kind of either very quick, very long, or anything in between. Really,
Yeah,
I found that quite interesting to watch.
So with the rollover jackpot as well, we got there knowing that the last series had ended on $9.5 grand in there. We didn't know until we got there how much we were actually going to be playing for.
Oh.
So the first we heard of it was when we were watching on the screen and saw that the team ahead of us were playing for $3 grand. As it happened, when I watched the episodes after that, I found out the team or the guy before them won 11.5, which was the most anyone had won.
Wow!
So we were 2 teams away from playing for 12.5 grand.
That'd have been very nice. Oh, yeah. Poor timing with that one. The meat of the show, is it any quicker or slower than it appears? Like, was the set look bigger than you expected, or anything? Just anything you noticed?
So the set was smaller than I was anticipating, but it was pretty much real time. They didn't have much meat on it. It was very rapid fire. As you see, what you see is what you get, which is very atypical for a lot of shows. There's a lot of shows there is resetting and redoing questions and stuff. They really didn't need it. No. The most kind of fat on it was Matt talking to the contestants as the crew were setting up at the start of the day.
So yeah, I wasn't too aware of Matt before this. How was he? Did you get much time to speak to him? Was it just before takes, or did you have any time after?
He was really lovely, but he was a bit hungover when we filmed. We heard him in the green room telling the team before us that he'd been out to his favourite pub in the world, which is the Britain Protection in Manchester, Castlefield. Yeah. He'd had a few too many.
Good on him.
A little bit tender.
Very honest. On the Sunday very honest of him as well. And how was Lesley-Anne as well?
She was lovely. We actually, when our episode aired, she said she was really disappointed we'd lost because she's atypical in the fact that she actually runs a company who sets the questions as well. So in the Richard Osman role, in theory, they just get the questions from the question writers. She employs the question writers, so she knew the answers anyway.
Interesting. No, I didn't realise that. Yeah, I did get a bit of a pointless vibe, not pointless in, the show.
the show,
yeah. It was quite interesting that they'd done that. I quite like that. But did the show provide any food during the day?
Yeah, so we had breakfast. I got parking because I was driving, and as I said, Adam got his hotel and his evening meal, and then breakfast with us as well.
What sort of food was it?
It's usual fare. It's usually like sausage butties or something, whatever you want to order from the canteen.
Fair enough. Nothing too fancy then.
No, not too fancy.
Once again, just straight in, straight out. Sausage butty, something quick, easy. Once your game had finished, were you able? I think you might have mentioned this earlier. Were you able to watch the rest of the show, or were you just shoved out the door? Or
yeah, so we had the choice basically whether we wanted to watch the next team or whatever, or stay on for a little bit. The trio before us chose to watch our game, which was probably a little bit foolish of them because they then had to spend another hour watching us, and then we did the same for the pair after us who went out in one question. So it was completely up to us basically whether we wanted to.
So do you watch it? Are you all together like in the green room? Did you say?
Yeah. So everyone was in the green room with the exception of the next person or team to go on, who was in the wardrobe chair.
Was there anything funny or strange that you can think of that we haven't quite covered at all?
Or I think it was that point. It was actually filming that episode where I realised how in sync me and Anne are, because if you look at the total world peace nothing else question, which is my favourite example of anything I've ever done. But the one tactic we went in with was basically do not get the numbers right as quickly as possible because it makes it harder and they give you harder questions.
Right.
We got the first question right. We got the first number right. Literally the first number in the code. Second question, second number in the code. And it's like, God's sake, we are making this so difficult for ourselves. So then we stumbled through 5 questions, I think it was, of answering them one at a time, saying whether they were right or not straight away. Then got to total world peace, nothing else as the options. It was my choice to pick first. And I picked, Ant said, well, nothing else, that could be something to do with Metallica, because he's a massive Metallica fan. So I picked nothing else for him. And turned out to be the question, what was the name of Metallica's first album? Oh. He not only knew the answer, he told everyone why it was right better than Leslie ever could have. And basically said, I'm going to pick you a question. You do exactly the same thing I've just done. He picked world peace, and the question was, basketball player Ron Artest legally changed his name to Meta what? And the answer is world peace, and I knew it straight away. So we were riding such a high, and we were so in sync with that, and then failed on the next question. But then go to my episode of The Chase. I was seat 2, got $9,000 in the cash builder, and went out in the head-to-head. And then a year later, filmed a episode of The Chase. He was seat 2, $9,000, went out in the head-to-head. Wow! How can we be any more in sync?
That's incredible. Yeah, I remember you told me about that. I didn't realise it was him.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What are the chances of that? What a coincidence that is. It's amazing.
He sent me a text on the day he filmed, just going, "You're never going to guess what happened."
Oh, that is incredible. Have you got any other plans to go on game shows with him then? Is there any of the team-based ones?
Well, at the moment with COVID, it's a bit difficult because we don't live in a household bubble, but we do keep an eye on all the sort of pairs games that we can do, or anything like that, or anything with a team. But I just want to win one. I've lost 2 now. I need to win a 3rd.
Oh, you'll get one eventually. Just keep applying.
I do.
Is there any cool down? I know in the American shows there's a cool down from when you are on a show before you can apply for another. Is there anything like that in the UK?
It depends, because they do ask whether you've been on shows before, obviously, and your filming dates and your air dates. They try and make sure that people aren't on TV roughly about the same time. So if you film, say, Pointless and The Chase roughly at the same time, they will try and make sure that your episode of The Chase does not air any time near to when your Pointless episode is.
Yeah.
There's unofficial cool downs, I think. So if you're on The Chase, you're pretty much not going to get another show for about a year at least, I think.
Right.
But there's no concrete rules that I'm aware of.
Right, I see. The Code was a kind of general knowledge show. How would you prepare for that? Would you just generally revise questions, or did you do any preparation?
Yeah, so I watched the entirety of the first series because I wasn't aware of the format before I did the audition.
Yeah.
And then it's just general knowledge. Like for The Chase, I watched about 100 episodes of The Chase before I actually filmed in the month between finding out I was going to be on and then actually filming. But I'm atypical in the fact that I love to look for the themes and stuff and try and work out what sort of question they're going to get.
So are you able to come up with the themes and things? Does it give you an advantage watching that many?
It does, because the same sort of questions come up over and over again, so you can kind of anticipate it. I didn't get many of them in mine because my head-to-head questions, especially, were just weird on the Chase.
Yeah.
But it helps you feel a little bit more confident, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I would say.
Feels like you're doing some sort of preparation, other than going in blind. Yeah. So we've got through this. Like The Code, I think we've got through this quite quick, to be honest. Yeah. Could get another few done today, yeah. Is there anything you can think of that I've missed, or before we do the outro, or?
I don't think so, no.
So do you think we've covered pretty much what happened during the day?
Yeah, we didn't really go into the format of The Code, I don't think.
No.
Be rattling through it, but...
Yeah, so the format, I did watch it, so... Yeah, could you explain the format a bit better? I have watched a couple of episodes today, but I still found it a little bit confusing. Yeah,
so essentially you have a safe with the $3,000 or 3.5 or whatever. We played for $3,500 on the wall against you, and 3 randomly generated numbers of 0 to 9 get picked as your code. You get 3 multiple choice questions, sets of answers. So in the first round, you'll see all 3 of them. You just have to pick which answer matches the right question. If you get that right, you then pick a number from 0 to 9 to find out if it's in your code. If you get one of the numbers in your code, you then move on to the next round, which is you can only see 2 of them before you get to pick whether one you've seen or the one you haven't is the correct pair. And then once you get 2 numbers right, you can only see them one at a time before you got to say whether they're right or wrong straight away.
Right.
If you don't get a number right, then you just keep playing at the same level. You have to get all 3 numbers right to then win the jackpot.
Right. Yeah, I think it sounds quite interesting, to be honest. I'm not sure why it was cancelled so soon. It's
no, I think it plodded along. It was a really fun show and really fun to be a part of. I I just don't think it was kind of a ratings juggernaut.
No,
They were just trying something new.
I can see that, yeah. But then something like Pointless, I'm always surprised has become as successful as it has.
Yeah.
And that they share similar sort of, well, with the two presenters, it's fairly similar. But,
I think the year after it was actually replaced by Armchair Detectives, which I loved as well, because that was kind of. Did you watch Armchair Detectives?
No, I wasn't I haven't seen that one, I don't think.
It was amateur sleuths solving murder mysteries, basically.
Oh, interesting.
Not to win money, just to win like trinkets. But it was a really fun show, and that was a one series wonder.
Is there anything you like to promote? You're part of a reality TV.
Yeah. So I do a podcast about reality TV called Reality TV Warriors. We cover at the moment Dutch and Belgian versions of The Mole, which is the greatest TV program ever on. Hope you're aware of it because it's the best show ever.
What is it about? I do recognise. Is it a game?
The Mole was on it was on in 2001 on Channel 5 over here.
Yeah.
But it's the most watched program in the Netherlands and Belgium.
Is it?
It's basically a group of people traveling around doing challenges. One of them has been paid by production to sabotage as much as possible. The whole point is to work out who it is and to take home all the money, basically. So it's still on in the Netherlands and Belgium, and there's lovely people who subtitle that, so we cover that. We do Amazing Race, we've done Big Brother Canada in the past, we've done Apprentice, we do Hunted. Hopefully that will film this year, because I've got a standing invitation to go meet the Hunters this year. So hopefully.
Oh, nice. Oh, lovely.
Basically anything that's vaguely competitive we cover on the podcast.
That sounds good. So how would we be able to find you? What was that called again?
Reality TV Warriors. So it's RTV Warriors pretty much everywhere, yeah.
Yep, I'll link to that
Facebook and everything.
Yeah, cool. I'll put in the description of the video and everything. And yeah, lovely. Thank you very much for coming on today, Michael.
No problem.
Probably speak to you again. Yeah, hopefully get on another show at some point and
hopefully
have another chat about something. Right, good luck with it all. Thank you very much.
See you later.
See you later, mate. Bye-bye.